Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's weekly gospel. So next week's just to get this out of the way, next week's weekly gospel is going to say September 3rd. It's going to be like Sunday, September 3rd, 2017, even though it's coming out on September 10th. So I just want to say the reason is that video was originally going to come out today, right now, but just with everything going on right now, I decided we couldn't just have whatever that one was about. I don't really know. We need to have a real talk about something that's going on right now. And if you haven't figured it out yet, that thing is Hurricane Harvey. And I think this is just something that needs to be addressed because if you've been paying attention at all, it's not a very good thing. And this is where a lot of kind of questions come up in the Christian faith and just like, whoa, what's going on? And I guess, well, the point of this weekly gospel is to give a message for those of you who, I don't even know who needs it. I just want to put a message out there about Hurricane Harvey because it's always good to put God into everything. So, why is Hurricane Harvey happening? I don't have the answer to that, but I can tell you God does not do bad things. The devil does bad things, but God lets them happen because they work for the greater good. What's an example? Just look for it in your everyday life. I'll try and come up with an example, but if you actually pay attention to your everyday life, something bad happens, and a lot of times later you'll realize that bad thing actually worked out for good. And when you have the choice between that bad thing happening or not happening, you'd probably be like, well, I wouldn't have realized this, or I wouldn't have had this opportunity, or this wouldn't have happened if the bad thing didn't happen. So, I mean, I'd rather deal with the bad thing. Now, that's in day-to-day life, which is completely different from your entire life being washed out from under your feet. Well, literally. And the thing to remember in this is that God does have the plan and God has the reins. He's the one who's in control. And I don't know why. No one knows why. No one actually really knows why. If they say they know why, they don't. No one actually knows why God needed this hurricane to come to Texas. No one, well, God does know. But what I want to let you know is if you've just had... And I know this is a super hard place to speak to, because I still have a house. So I'm in a interesting place to be coming from, as in that I still have my house and it's dry because I'm in California. But if this means anything to you, even though I'm not in your situation, I just want to let you know that God has control. And in Romans, God says that for the one who believes, something like this, for the one who believes, all things will work together for good. And that's where this whole idea of bad things leading to good kind of stems from, along with many other verses. But all things work together for good. So you need to remember that at the end of the day, I mean, you're in a horrible situation. Your house is gone. Your cars, I'm sure, are ruined. I mean, everything could be gone. But everything does work for good, and God does have a plan. And just remember that God's plan is going to happen no matter what. And if you really love God, then that's what you want to happen. So as long as you're following God and you're making the right choices, just... I want to say rejoice, because God's plan is what is right, and even though all this is happening looks bad, and from a worldly perspective, or a physical perspective, I should say, from the perspective of the flesh in the real world, it looks pretty bad. But God does have a way to work through things, and God will always have you. I mean, it's a cheesy little, Sunday school VBS thing, but God has your back, and God's going to keep you safe. And whatever looks bad, God will always pull through. God will always keep you in his arms. And at the end of the day, you'll make it through. And, whatever's going to happen to you next is what God wants to happen. So, I don't know how much this could help, but if you are in just a horrible situation with this Hurricane Harvey, just remember that it's God's plan, and God has you in his hands, and no matter what happens, it's still God's plan, and it's still going to work for good. And God, he does say, all things, for the believer, all things work together for good. So, it truly is going to eventually, somehow, maybe you might not even find out until you make it to heaven, but it is somehow going to play out and work together for your own good, and for the good of the world, and for the good of the gospel, and stuff like that. So, if you have more questions, man, I'm just a high schooler. I don't have all your answers. But man, find a church, find like a Presbyterian or a Methodist church, or a church that believes in the Bible, and a church that's not taking other books or writing other things or having other people talking to God, and getting divine messages from God. Find a church that really focuses solely on the Bible and the resurrection of Jesus, and find someone there. Find a pastor. Pastors know a ton, especially if they have a Bible degree. Ask them. You can ask them questions, because their job is to be there for you, and their job is to talk to you, and their job is to find the answers for you. So, if you have any questions about what the hell is going on, why is my house ruined, why is everything I've ever owned ruined and swept away by this flood, they have more answers than I do. But at the end of the day, God's the one who has all the answers, and he's going to be in control. That's all I got to say. And man, that might be I'm sure that is a horrible message compared to what other people are going to say, but I do want to put that out there, that God is in control, and that God is going to somehow, no one knows how, no one can see how, work through Hurricane Harvey for the good of those who believe. And if you like this weekly gospel, please do leave a like. If you did not like this week's weekly gospel, leave a dislike. Don't forget to share your opinion in the comment section down below. It's a good one to share an opinion on. And as well as sharing any epiphany you had yourself this week, or anything you'd like to share about Hurricane Harvey, or to people who are going through the hardest time in their life right now, dealing with this just insane natural disaster that is going to change the course of their life forever. Share it down below, and I will see you next week for the September 3rd weekly gospel. Bye, bye, bye.